Today I'm with Philip McKernan at his home in Boulder, Colorado. I got a chance to see Philip give an incredible talk in San Diego to a huge audience and had to get him on the show. Philip works with entrepreneurs and business leaders all over the world, and when people are seeking clarity about their future or want to move through roadblocks, seen and unseen, they call Philip. He's worked with the Canadian Olympic team, the Pentagon, and has shared the stage with other speakers like the Dalai Lama and Richard Branson. And in his past, he's caddied in golf for the President of Ireland, been chased and nearly killed by a bull elephant in Nigeria, and made wine in Australia. He's traveled to 80 countries around the globe and has worked with orphans in Sri Lanka, Peru, India, and Guatemala. He's written 4 books despite being dyslexic, and his first documentary film was just released in 2016. And today, he's going to share some valuable business insights with you.
If you own a gym or you need a gym, this is your guy.
My name's Mike, and I help fitness studios that are ready to take action, work hard, and grow their studios. In this very saturated industry, there's tons of competition, but the opportunities are incredible. We'll cover the most common challenges in the fitness world and invite guests in the show that have learned to overcome them and share their strategies with you. This is the GSD Show. What's up, everybody? I am here with Philip McKernan, one of the most amazing, inspiring speakers that I've ever seen. And his talk was absolutely mind-blowing at one of the best conferences I've ever been to called Thrive. And I'm really excited to have him here. So excited. I flew out to Denver just for the day. I'm not even staying overnight because I wanted to sit down and talk with you more about what I heard in that talk. So welcome to the GSD Show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me, and it's a real honor to be here.
So just so everybody kind of knows a little bit more about you, what is it that you would classify yourself as? If I were to say, Philip, what do you do?
Well, I mean, somebody asked me that recently. I jokingly said I make people cry, and they laughed, and I wasn't laughing. I was somewhat serious, and I've been known, people say, oh, you're the guy that makes people cry. And what that, I think, really tells is a lot of the work I do, the questions I ask, the philosophies that I have, the workshops, the retreats, whatever I do, and the way I present myself to the world, I think it stirs emotion. And the reason for that is I don't make people cry. What I think the work does is it stirs them deeply and emotionally to places that perhaps they haven't identified before, places they haven't gone before. They're asking questions about themselves that perhaps they've never looked at before. And really a lot of the growth that I want is the shit that lies dormant in them. I want to draw the stuff out that lies dormant. I want to take that gift that they don't even think they have, and I want to rip it out of them, and I want them to present that to the world. I want them to get in touch with their story, maybe for the first time or in a way that they've never got in touch with their story before. So I think, people call me a coach, people call me a pain in the ass, one guy called me an enlightened hooligan. I think I'm a guy who really cares, and I'm a guy who's prepared to challenge, nurture, and really, really, really support people to get to one place and to get to their individual truth, who they are on this earth, what is their identity, and what are they here to do in this earth.
So challenge he does. I actually, at the conference, you just pulled people from the audience, which you got a chance to talk to the night before and really get an understanding as to who would be perfect to select for this. But I saw you challenge people like I've never seen anybody challenge on a stage like that. And you really got deep into their pain and where they were. So a lot of the people that watch this show and people that we work with regularly, there's some people that I see and I already know they should be doing much, much better. They should be doing really great things. They have a lot of, characteristics that people like, that you could tell there's something in there, but they're just never really getting there. Something's holding them back. What do you think is holding most people back from being extraordinary?
2 things. And again, I haven't really prepared the answers. I want this to be very organic and so on and so forth. I think there's 2 things in what you said. Well, first of all, back to the audience and picking people out. Probably a third of the people that I picked out of the audience that night I had a chance to talk to the night before. The majority of people that actually came on that I'd never spoken to before.
You just pulled it up.
Because I said, who's got a question? And they put their hand up and says, right, get on the stage. And the reason I point that out is because sometimes when you over prepare, I think sometimes you give a more clinical intellectual answer. Sometimes when you're unprepared, unprepared in terms of the unknown as a speaker on stage, you've got to really feel it out and see what happens. But that was an interesting day, and it was the first time I'd done that in that way before. But going back to your original question, you said something interesting. Says, I see that they're capable of more. You're basically saying, I see so much potential. And I think that is often the answers in the question. the reality is that you see something in them that they don't recognize themselves. And that is the core issue, is that I see people every single day. I meet people every single day that are gifted, that have some very unique story or gift to bring to the world. The challenge is I can see it, other people can see it. But if they don't, at some point in that journey, not just recognize it intellectually, but actually feel it, they're screwed. Because they'll never fully execute on it. They'll never fully live out that reality or that possibility. So it's people not seeing their own individual gift, seeing their own individual beauty, seeing the fact that they can be successful on and off the ice, successful in business, with their small business, with their gym, with their multiple gyms, franchising, whatever it is, and therefore additionally off the ice in their relationships, within the relationship with themselves, their partners, their husbands, their wives, and their children, and so forth. So that's probably the biggest thing I see. The second thing, and I don't mean to challenge, I suppose we're both here to deliver value. So I think we're after exactly the same thing. But I'm a bit concerned about the word extraordinary, even though while I get the concept, I think the problem is a lot of people set out to be extraordinary, where I'm asking them to not set out with the end result of being extraordinary. Just set out to change what you know is not working. To look at what's not working in your life, what's not aligned, what's not jiving for you. Execute on that and execute on the next thing. And keep just making tweaks and tweaks and tweaks and tweaks. And who knows, you might end up extraordinary. But if you set out with that expectation, it feels like you're trying to climb Mount Everest on day one. Where if you climb the hill on the other side, so this is Mount Everest, I'm just literally making up this analogy. This is Mount Everest. This is a hill or a mountain that's small. In society today, we all want to go for Everest, even though we haven't trained. We all want to go for Everest, even though we don't have the right boots. We all want to go to Everest, even though we don't have the right equipment. We all want to go to Everest, even though we have no idea how to breathe in the death zone at the very, very top. And if we had the courage to say, okay, maybe someday, but I'm going to climb the mountain next to it, the hill next to it, two things happen. If you get to the top of this hill and you have the courage and the wisdom to stop and look down the mountain and go, wow, look how far I've come. That's number one. Number two is we also look at Everest. You know what? Everest doesn't look as big from here anymore. Everest does not look as big from here anymore. When you're down here, it looks almost insurmountable. So to me, is don't always pick the big, massive goal. Make those steps. Move towards, what feels right. And who knows, you might even end up as being extraordinary.
Do you think too many people don't take that step of stopping and looking down at the hill they've already climbed to see how far they've gone? Do you think they're always just looking at Everest too much?
I agree, absolutely. They're staying so busy. And busy people, I believe, fundamentally are running from something. They're running from their gift. They're running from the pain that they don't want to feel. They're running from, from the story, the reality, and they're telling themselves a different story, and they're running to the next thing. One very common thing I see, in particularly the world of business and entrepreneurs and leaders, is I see us getting to a top of a hill or a mountain, whichever you want to call it, and having this realization that, oh my God, this is the thing I want to achieve. But having this empty feeling that actually the feeling associated with the achievement is not where I thought it would be. In other words, I get there and I'm so-called successful, but I don't feel satisfied. I've opened my third gym. 10 years ago, that wasn't even on the radar. I was like, wow, can I open my first one? And suddenly you're 3 in or 4 in, or even you're in 1. You've opened your first one and you're actually turning a profit. Right. You've got your first coach, whatever your benchmarks are. And the challenge is you make that, and sometimes you feel this sense of that you're successful on paper, you're successful in societal terms, but you don't feel satisfied. And my finding is if you go beyond that conversation, you'll find that there's something misaligned in your life. It might be in business. It might be the way you do business. It might be the way you are in your business. Or sometimes it's off the ice. It's how is your relationships. A lot of entrepreneurs are very good in business, but they're atrocious in relationships. They're great on the ice, they're not so good off the ice. And what they do is they assume that shit will look after itself, and eventually that comes back and it haunts them. And the reality is if you have the courage to spend and focus on growing your business on the ice and your life off the ice, how you are off the ice has a massive impact about how you perform every single day in this world of and this commercial reality that a lot of us live in.
One of the things that I did last year, every day, learned it from a coach, was I wrote down my goals every day. It was the same goals, though. It wasn't like I kept changing them over and over. And I tweaked a few just because I realized I wanted something a little different, but I didn't raise them during the year. And I never did that before, but I got stuck in that mode where I never stopped and looked back and felt like I accomplished anything because I still didn't accomplish what I was currently wanting to get. But writing down my goals every day, I was able to celebrate. Like this year, I've already accomplished a goal. Sarah knows what it is, right? And I'm really excited about it. It made me feel great. Now I only got 3 left out of my 4 main goals. But I think what I'm noticing is not enough people are really writing down their goals or have really a clear understanding as to exactly what they want. So they never feel like there is a top of even the hill to stop and look back. They just kind of walk. And they always feel like they're going up this Everest, or maybe they keep switching mountains. I don't really know, but what's your take on goal setting and writing down your goals? Do you think that's something that you believe in, or how do you coach your clients on stuff like that?
I used to be very much around goals. If I look back to some of the earlier talks I did, people might say, oh, you're a hypocrite now because of what you say now and what you said before. And I don't believe I'm a hypocrite. I'm a guy who basically has evolved. I'm a guy who's constantly evolving. I'm constantly challenging my own status quo. I'm constantly challenging what's going on in the world. I'm taking commonly held beliefs. I challenge them through the lens of my own life, and then I bring them to my clients. I don't goal set anymore in the way I used to. I create intentions, or maybe an intention each year, but I don't goal set in the traditional sense. And the reason, my biggest concern with goals is that you give me somebody and put them in front of me for 15 or 20 minutes. And if they're kind of open, if they're not sitting there and they're all super defensive, and they're open to being questioned on the authenticity, the origin of their goals, what you'll find is, I was going to say 95% of the time, actually that would be a lie. Every single time I have found that the authenticity, the origin of their goals, not all of them, but either a percentage of them, or the vast majority of them, or in some cases all of them, have no real personal substance. They're goals they've taken from other people. They're goals and aspirations they've taken from society. They're goals and dreams and aspirations they've taken from a book. Or they're basically desperately seeking validation from somebody very close to them, such as their father or their mother. In other words, they're doing this because they're desperately still holding out for their father or their mother, a lot of fathers, to come to them and go, hey buddy, I'm proud of what you did. And what they're doing is they're running towards these goals for reasons that are not necessarily aligned with who they are. So my fundamental challenge with goal setting in the traditional way of writing down is people sometimes have a clear understanding of what they want, intellectually, but they don't know why. And a lot of those goals are intellectual goals where they're not connected emotionally to something that's bigger than themselves. But if you can align the goal, the intellectual goal, with an emotional connection, oh my God, you just step back. You won't need to keep anybody accountable. You just step back, you get out of the way, and you watch what happens. So if you can create a goal that feels great and is intellectually great, and you can connect the two, it's like rocket fuel. It's like nothing you can ever imagine. And that's when you literally need to get out of the way as a coach. I need to step out of the way of my clients and let them breeze past me, if that makes any sense whatsoever.
Yeah, so to make it, because obviously that's a very different approach than what a lot of people recommend. So to make it easier to kind of see what that would look like, what are your goals?
I don't really have any goals. As I said, it's an intention. So my intention this year, how I do it, I'm not attached to it. I don't get caught up in the details. So my intention this year is my intention is less clients, more impact. So the intention there is to work with people that have more influence in the world. So I want to work, my intention this year is to attract people who want to impact other people, who want to impact the world, who want to unleash their gift, who want to understand their gift, who want to bring shift and change to the world. Now, if I can influence them and play a small part in their life, then I get to play a small part in a much bigger picture. But I see that very much as an emotional intention. I don't see that as a goal or an aspiration. In other words, I haven't therefore said, okay, great, now let's break it down. That means I need 20 new clients and this in here. I've done none of that. I've no financial goals for my business. And a lot of people roll their eyes to heaven when they hear me talk about this stuff and they judge me. What I would say is this, is that I used to religiously write down tons of goals and everything else. The problem was that I would achieve a lot of them. I was brilliant at writing goals and I was even better at achieving them. The challenge is that I would get to that mountain and I would stop and I would look and go, what is going on here? Why do I not feel satisfied? Is it because I just don't take the time, which I was in many occasions? What was happening was I was achieving shit that I thought I wanted, that I thought would make me successful, but I didn't feel satisfied. So what I've decided to do is experiment for a few years with just the idea of not being as attached to setting goals. I'm not saying goals are bad, but if you're a goal setter and that's all you've done most of your life, what I would do is ask you to do the opposite. Just for a while, test it.
But how do you know what you really want to do, because that's a tough thing for some people. We talked about this off camera before we started shooting this episode, that a lot of people, they think they should be doing this versus what they really want to be doing. And the people that you had pulled out of the crowd, you had asked them what they want to do, and then they would tell you, but you didn't buy it. And so you kept digging and you realized they wanted to do something totally different. I bet you there's a lot of viewers like this too, considering the fact that you got like 2 or 3 out of 4 or 5 people to really hit that out of the audience at random. So I'm assuming most people are like this.
Most people know. People know.
People know what they should be doing?
If there's somebody, well, 2 things. Number one is, and here's the really important one. If there's somebody watching this today or even listening to this today, and you're out of alignment and you get this sense that what you're doing today professionally or even personally is not for you, you already know one thing. So you're going around perhaps going, oh, but I don't know what my passion is and I don't know what's next and I don't know, well, if I don't like this, what could I do? This one, well, I'd change it if I knew what was next, okay? And what you're doing is you're not recognizing one incredible piece of information. And that is, right now, the thing that you're doing is not working. So my invitation and my challenge to you is forget about what's next. We're so obsessed with what's next. Act upon what you know as opposed to what you do not. So if I'm in a relationship with a woman and it is not working and I do not love this person, do I hang around and wait for the right one to come along, or do I have the courage to say, I'm sorry, this is not working for me. This has got to end. I move and I create that space with no big goal or dream or aspiration of filling the space, just knowing that this is not working. What's the chances of me meeting a better or the right person in staying there? 0 to none. But if I execute on what I know and I have the courage to let go of the thing that's not working, I create the space. I create the emotional, the physical, and the mental space for the right thing to show up. What's the chances of me meeting the right person in that space? Way higher.
So you're saying if somebody knows that what they're doing is not what they want to do, or it's not, they can already feel like they're still not satisfied, even though they're accomplishing certain goals that they set out, they're still not satisfied. They should step away from that business in order to create an opportunity?
Stepping away is an interesting term. So sometimes people say, oh, that's so irresponsible. You're saying I close down my business just because I'm misaligned? I'm not saying that. I'm saying even open to the possibility that maybe this business is not for you.
So just to start thinking.
Just open the conversation, the dialogue. What if? Just what if? Because if you're so incredibly attached to your business, what basically means what you're saying is that your identity is now caught up in what you do. Mm-hmm. Your identity is now being diluted in what you do professionally, which is for most people in the world today. You go to a dinner party, it's not, hey, tell me about yourself. It's like, what do you do?
Yeah,
what do you do? Oh, you're an accountant. It's our identities are so tied. It's become what we do as opposed to who we are. So if you're so attached to your business that you can't even dream about letting it go, I question everything that's normal. Why am I doing this? Why am I married? Why do I have kids? Why do I live in Boulder? I ask the questions that most people don't ask, as opposed to obsessing about the shit that I'm not in control of or I don't have an influence on. I question a lot of the stuff that most people would consider the normal stuff. So just even dream about the possibility, what if? And I've helped people pivot, even like when you let go of that emotional attachment, you can see ways of operating in your current business and pivot in your current business to make it more fulfilling, make it more meaningful, and make it more enjoyable. And sometimes it requires us to execute and move away from it. Absolutely. If somebody's in a dysfunctional relationship, an unhealthy relationship, do I want them to work on it before they exit? Absolutely. So they walk away knowing I tried everything, no regrets. But there are certain times in life you just got to pull off the Band-Aid and you've got to walk away because you know in your heart and soul that it's not working for you. And you tell yourself all sorts of stuff, all sorts of rationalizations and justifications that I need to stay for her, for him, for them,
for what I've been doing. This is who I am.
This is what I know. And it's very intellectual. It's very scarce. And I don't mean to sound judgmental because I did it for years myself, just by the way, which I think is very important to acknowledge and to admit. I did it for years myself. I kept telling myself, no. I'll have the freedom down the line to do what I want. For now, it's about knuckling down, doubling down, doing what I need to do to build a financial future. And then I'll have the freedom to go and write a book or do this or do that. and no one told me, or maybe they did and I didn't listen. What if you did? What if you did it now? Do you think there's any possibility of monetizing it?
Right.
Do you think there's any possibility of monetizing it? And of course, that's what I've done.
I know right now a really, really hot topic on the internet, all these videos and books, it's all revolved around mindset, having the right mindset. And I've seen your take on it a little bit, where you believe when you talk about mindset, it's thinking intellectually as opposed to intuitively. And so tell me a little bit about that. What are your thoughts on mindset and versus, using intellect versus using intuition? Mindset's
one of the most overrated, overrated strategies in the world.
Why?
Because it's not working.
What do you mean?
Look at the world today. Look at the world today. Look how many people are disconnected. Look how many people are committing suicide. Look how many people are suffering depression. Look at how many people have lost their identity in what they do as opposed to who they are. Look at the stats that are showing how many people are in jobs and in businesses that they're not aligned to, that they feel dissatisfied with, but they're doing it anyway because they don't see any other options. It is not working. It has not worked. It will never work. Here's my prediction. There's not going to be an evolution with what I've dubbed soul set. There is going to be a revolution with soul set.
So soul set's intuition, mindset's intellect.
Absolutely.
Intellectually thinking.
A thought is your mind's voice, if you like. A feeling is your soul's voice. I'm not even talking about heart. I'm talking about your soul. A feeling is your soul. That's your truth. So many of us are moving through this earth living in our heads. And we think that the mindset and our minds is the answer to everything. And the challenge is the mind is where fear grows. The mind is where insecurity grows. The mind is where second guessing grows, paranoia, just fear, inadequacy. Like, there's so much stuff that the mind conjures up. The mind will bullshit you where your soul cannot.
So to clearly separate the two for the people watching, they're still having a cloudy understanding of what the difference is. Give me an example of a mindset thought and a soul set thought.
Well, let me just bring it back to goals. An intellectual goal would be, I want to make $1 million this year. I want to put $4 million in the bank so then I can have the freedom, the financial freedom to go and do what I want.
Okay.
Incredibly intellectual.
So that's mindset.
Doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means it's a mindset goal.
Sure.
The other one is, screw the money for a moment. I want to do this work. I want to create this retreat. I want to write this book. I want to do this talk. I want to have this conversation because I feel I need to. And it comes from here. It's a feeling. Or you go into a deal. Let me just try and even simplify it even more. You go into a deal, and let's just say, in the context of your clients, you're looking at maybe opening your second premises. And you go to see this premises and the lease. It just makes a lot of sense. And your landlord is there, and the numbers make sense. And you sit down with the landlord, and there's a feeling. Or you sit down with a business partner, or you sit down with a potential employee. And it all makes sense. All the assessments are saying this is the perfect person. So intellectually it makes sense. The numbers make sense, whatever the deal is. But you just got this feeling that has no origin in numbers or science. There's no reason for you to have this feeling. But the feeling is you're saying, what is it about this person that I just don't like? What is it about this location? Starbucks are next door. The bloody tube station is across the road. There's a new airport on the other side of the road. But I don't feel it. You talk to any successful entrepreneur in the world, any of the big names, and what you'll find is you dig enough beyond the intellect, beyond the different, what you'll find is they also have this intuitiveness that transcends all of the stats that they can't even describe. And it is a feeling. And I had a client recently reach out to me, and we had a $2-3 million conversation, whether she did this deal or didn't. And she came on the phone. She goes, listen, the numbers are great, whatever. And I said, great, okay, let's just leave that aside. She goes, but this is what I want to talk about. I said, great, we'll come back to it. How you doing? I said, I'm doing really good. Mm-hmm. Do you remember when we met, how busy your life was? She goes, oh, God, yeah. God, things are so much better. And I don't mean I'm a miracle worker. That's not what I'm trying to imply here. How's the relationship with your kids? She goes, I never imagined I could have a relationship with my kids the way I do now. I never imagined I would feel like this.
So you don't think that's a miracle? I know you're being modest, but you don't think it's a miracle? What do you consider a miracle? Define that.
Well, no, okay.
When you think about a miracle, when I think about a miracle, it's something that very rarely happens, and it's something that you didn't even think could happen, and you just said that's how she felt.
Yes, but what I'm trying to say is that I'm not a miracle worker. In other words, I'm not trying to take responsibility for the growth. What I do is I put my work back into my clients.
So you're not selling the miracle? You're not saying I'm gonna create a miracle for you.
God, no.
You're just wanting to open them up to realize what they're capable of
What
doing.
they are capable of doing.
Right.
That's the point. It's not Philip McKernan. People put way too much
It
credence
just
on the
happens
work
to be
I
a
do.
miracle, which works out well for everyone.
Works out great. Great for everybody. To me, she does the work. So I don't want to portray that I'm the guy that has all the answers, because I'm very good at what I do, but I don't know it all, if that makes any sense. But so we just sat down and described where she's at. And I said, great. And I said, eventually I just said, okay, back to this deal. And she goes, oh yeah, the deal. And she goes, I know what I need to do. I said, you're going to do it? She goes, no way. And I said, why? She goes, because it just doesn't fit with who I am anymore. That was the old pattern. That's the old thing. That's the old. She said, I know if I do that deal, it'll bring me back to this complex life where I'm disconnected from who I am. I'm back to where I was, the complexity, the not enough space in my life. And also the deal was actually a deal in an area that she's not even, that she doesn't care about. So it's not in alignment with who she is. So the point of the little mini story is to prove that there is something else that goes on beyond the intellect, the numbers, even the science. I believe all science really does in the end of the day, most of science in terms of human behavior, is it just basically tells us what we've felt for hundreds of years and solidifies that it's actually true.
Right.
That's all it does, really. And what you'll find in the next 10 or 15 years, the next evolution, if you think about where it's going, first of all, it's mindset. The next big evolution is happiness. I remember going to a publisher. My wife is here 8-10 years ago and saying, hey, I want to write a book on happiness. It's too fluffy. And I'm telling you, within the next 4 or 5 years, I'd say 60, 90, 80 books come out around happiness. Documentaries, everything. Not saying there's anything wrong with that. Great. Then now it's authenticity. Sorry, it's not authenticity. It was authenticity. Now it's vulnerability. That's the evolution. It's like our palate in wine. We start with, Chardonnays, then we move to the drier whites, then we move to the big bold reds, then we come back to the subtle reds like the Pinots and everything else, and then we eventually make our way back to white. There's this evolutionary thing that happens. What's happening is we want to go deeper, but there's this insatiable need to go deeper. And what we're realizing, whether we know it or not, is mindset didn't work. Authenticity and happiness, then authenticity, now it's vulnerability. And we're moving through all these stages. And what's happening is we're having a great, amazing intellectual understanding of these things, but we're not transcending from the head to the soul and actually feeling it. And that's the missing link.
Oh, hey, didn't see you there. As you know, you are watching part 1 of a 2-part episode with Philip McKernan, but we didn't want to have to make you wait until the next part to give away this really cool thing. So here it is. All right, well, thank you so much. Last thing, you have this DVD right here, this documentary you did. In 30 seconds or so, give me a nutshell. What is this thing about?
If you want to know the difference between your talent and your gift, this is the documentary for you. People are walking through this earth, executing their talent and never honoring their gift. And if I had to decide what is a gift, it's basically taking passion and going even deeper. We're slapping the word passion on wine and widgets and motorbikes and everything else now. And I think what we've done is commercialize the concept of passion. I want to go deeper, and I believe it's our gift, which all of us have. If you understand what your gift is, intellectually, start to begin to explore what it is emotionally and help you understand how you might unleash that in the world. That's what this documentary is about.
Guys, he's done a lot of work on this, and this thing's gotten some really great reviews. So if you want it, Philip's actually going to be hooking us up. All the viewers, you want to text the number 44222, and what you want to put in that text is GSD 041. So text GSD 041 to the number 44222, and we're going to go ahead and hook you up with one of these. Sound good? Philip, thank you so much. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as much as I did. I kind of got lost. I don't even realize how this went as long as it did. I was so engaged in the conversation. It was fantastic. And I can't wait to learn more from you. And how can people learn more about you?
PhilipMcKernan.com or giveandgrow.com, which is where the film is. And they can link up with me from there.
Follow Philip. Thank you so much, man.
Cheers.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Take care.
Take care.
Thanks so much for joining us today. If you like this episode, then subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Stitcher and to our YouTube channel to never miss an episode. You can get all the links by going to thegsdshow.com. Thanks, and see you next time.